Hey, it's Jay, and I hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving. Yes, I'm wearing a hat, but as you recall, I kind of got caught by the FBI in the last episode, but I was able to slip free, so I have to lay low for a little bit. But it's time for me to look at another film. This time we're going to be looking at Rian Johnson's latest addition to his movie repertoire, Knives Out. This is a murder mystery, so let's get into the plot. So the film centers around Harlan Thrombey, played by Christopher Plummer, who is a wealthy crime novelist, and he invites his family over for his 85th birthday celebration. However, the next morning, his housekeeper, Fran, finds him dead, apparently slitting his own throat. An anonymous person sends a note to Detective Bennett Blank, played by Daniel Craig, to investigate said murder. So everybody in the family is a suspect, seeing as they're the only ones who are at the party. So Blanc learned through interrogation that Harlan had actually been alienating a lot of his family members that he's been helping throughout his life. He threatens to tell his daughter, Linda Drysdale, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, that her husband, Richard Drysdale, played by Don Johnson, is actually having an affair and cheating on his daughter. So he, threatened, if you don't tell her, I'm going to, and kept it on a note. He also cut off funding to his daughter-in-law, Joni Thrombey, who is the wife of one of Harlan's deceased sons. He cuts off funding to Joni's daughter's university, Meg Thrombey, played by Catherine Langford, after he finds out that she's been tapping money into her own account and stealing the money that's supposed to be going towards Meg's education. And he also fires his son, Walt, played by Michael Shannon, Walt Thrombey, from the publication company that he runs to make his crime novels, even though Walt is kind of expecting to be the new president, the new CEO of this company. So it seems as though everyone has a motive to commit murder like this. However, since there's still not enough evidence, it's still being ruled as a suicide. But he also cuts out his snobby grandson, Ransom Drysdale, who is the son of Linda and Richard Drysdale. Ransom is played by Chris Evans. He cuts him out of the will entirely for just being self-centered and arrogant and just overall not a good human being. So a lot of people have motive for murder in this family, but we'll have to find out who did it. So unknown to Blanc and everybody in the Thrombey family, after the party, Harlan's nurse, Marta, played by Ana de Armas, accidentally injected Harlan with a lethal amount of morphine because she mistook one of his medications for the morphine bottle. He does get a shot of morphine, but obviously only enough to act as, stimulant. So it was accidentally injected a lethal dose. So minutes before his death, Harlan does everything he can to make sure that Marta is cleared of suspicion. So because her family came into the country illegally, and if she's found out, that could mean horrible things for her family. So he has her play up that he's been alive ever since she left by dressing as him and going downstairs, and then Walt mistakes Marta for Harlan because she wears his clothes, and then she sneaks out and goes through a different road. However, in questioning, Marta has a bit of, I guess you could say, an Achilles heel, where she has a horrible reaction which causes her to vomit if she lies. So she has to be very, very, very careful when Blanc is questioning her, because if she answers incorrectly, if she lies, she will puke, giving away the fact that she lies, because it was revealed to Blanc that she does, and he exploits that to no extent. However, she does a very good job dodging the question, answering truthfully, but without giving everything away, So Blanc asks her to assist him in his investigation. However, this poses a problem because as they're going to try to find some information, there's plenty of evidence pointing at Marta being the murderer that she's trying to cover, though she's only partially successful. She's not completely successful in covering everything. Certain things get revealed and, doesn't point to her directly, but if, Blanc plays his cards right, he could definitely find out that Marta was the one who inflicted that fatal dose that killed Harlan. So, Marta's on thin ice right now. So it's finally time to read the will. It's finally time to see who Harlan left his massive fortune, his house, his publishing company, and obviously the money, who he left all that to. And as the family gathers, the money was all left to Marta. Harlan changed his will to have everything given to Marta and nothing given to his family. Nothing. This causes them to turn on Marta and try to, figure out what's going on and try to get her to give back the inheritance. However, Ransom saves her and takes her to a little diner where he tricks her into confessing everything that happened. However, Ransom seems to be on her side and is like, hey, I'll help you out. I'll help you, clear your name, but you got to give me my portion of the inheritance. That's the only caveat. And of course she agrees, because what else can she do? She has to stop from being proven guilty, or else bad things can happen. And the family realizes that under Slayer rule, if anything is found out that Marta is the killer or anything like that, she has to give up the inheritance back to the family. So they push Blanc to continue the investigation, so that they can get to the bottom of it and hopefully find out something that they can agree with so that they get their inheritance back from Marta, who they feel doesn't deserve it. So, Marta receives a blackmail note with the toxicology report of Harlan Thrombey. It's actually cut off. It's only the top. I'll explain why it's only cut off at the top later on. Ransom and Marta drive to the medical examiner's office to try to destroy evidence. But when they get there, the place is ablaze. It's been set on fire, and they don't know why. Marta received an email saying that a time and a place to meet this blackmailer, And so they head there. However, Blanc is at the fire site and sees them as they speed away. A chase ensues with the police and Marta and Ransom. They get stopped by the cops because they kind of pick a bad place to stop and, regather their thoughts. And Ransom is arrested. Marta doesn't understand why, and Blanc explains to her that their great-grandmother, who's like this senile woman who could barely do anything, saw Ransom climbing down the side of the house the night of the murder, which was actually Marta, but she's so senile she thought it was Ransom. And that's why Ransom was arrested. And Marta lies and says that, yeah, Ransom forced me to drive. And she had to hold back some vomit because, of course, that was a lie. And Blanc then takes her back to the home to, investigate further as to what's going on. So, Marta tricks Blanc into letting her go to the address that is stated in the email. And when she gets there, she finds Fran, the housekeeper, drugged with the same morphine that she drugged Harlan with. And this is very, very bad because Fran is slowly dying right now. And so Marta performs CPR, and even though she knows that if she calls 911, she will be caught and everything will be exposed that she's the one who killed Harlan, she calls 911 because she's just too good of a person to let Fran die like that over something like this. So she calls 911 and Fran is rushed to the hospital. Marta can't live with the guilt anymore and finally confesses everything to Blanc. But even before she does that, Ransom does rat out everything that Marta told him in the investigation room. So Marta's like, I'm done with people getting hurt on my behalf. We have to go tell the family. Even though Blanc doesn't think that's the best idea. So he gathers the whole family so that Marta can tell the truth as to what happened. But before she can, Fran has a cannabis stash hidden in the house. And that's where she kept the toxicology report, the full toxicology report, not just the half portion that was given to Marta as blackmail. And before Marta can say anything, Blanc interrupts the whole thing and says that Marta's keeping the inheritance and you girls don't deserve anything. Marta's very confused, and Blanc explains in the next room because he found something that's very peculiar on this toxicology report. So I'm just going to say this right now. If you don't want to find out who actually was behind everything in this movie, I suggest clicking away now. Because I'm going to reveal what happened actually in the movie. So Blanc reveals that Ransom was very upset that he was getting cut out and his whole family was getting cutting out of the inheritance. There was a huge fight between Harlan and Ransom at his 85th birthday party, causing Ransom to storm out. However, Ransom knew that he could frame Marta and make her ineligible for the inheritance if she does accidentally kill Harlan. So he switches the bottles. He's the one who switched the bottles. So Marta didn't accidentally inject him with the wrong thing. He switched the labels so that she would inject him with that lethal amount of the morphine. And so Marta actually didn't even inject him with the morphine. Marta's an experienced enough nurse to know the difference between the medicine she gives Harlan and the morphine because she does it all the time. So even though the labels were switched, her nurse instincts kicked in and she actually gave him the right dose. But that comes into play a little later. So after Harlan's death was ruled a suicide by Detective Lieutenant Elliot, who I forgot to mention was played by Lakeith Stanfield, that's when Ransom slipped the anonymous note to Blanc to investigate the murder and try to find out Marta's guiltiness. However, Fran noticed him switching the bottles. And Fran is the one who sent him the blackmail notice. She actually didn't send Marta the blackmail. She sent it to Ransom, who, in order to keep the charade going that Marta was guilty, slipped her the blackmail note. He goes and meets Fran at the location she said and overpowers her and injects her with the same amount of morphine that Marta injected Harlan with. And when Marta goes to confront Fran, it sounds like she's saying, "You did this," but what she's actually saying is, "Hugh did this." Hugh is Ransom's first name. So it's all making sense now. And it turns out, so the sad thing about all this is, Marta actually didn't even inject morphine to kill Harlan. That was all a mistake. That was actually a mistake. She thought she really did, but she actually didn't. So Harlan slitting his throat to make it seem like a suicide to clear Marta's name actually was all futile. If Harlan had listened to Marta when she wanted to call the hospital, Harlan would have still been alive. But out of a whole misunderstanding like that, he killed himself to clear Marta's name, but he didn't even have to do that because it was all, she did inject the right stuff into him because she's just that good of a nurse. And if it weren't for the fact that Marta called 911 when Fran was overdosing on morphine, it never would have come together that Ransom was behind all of this. And Ransom was the one who set the fire in the house because he didn't want the toxicology report to come out that there were no drugs, well, at least morphine, administered to Harlan at the time of death. So it's all pointing to Ransom, and that is why Ransom did what he did. It is revealed that Ransom is the one who orchestrated this whole plan because he was very upset that he wasn't going to get his money from Harlan. So here's where some deceit comes into play. Marta gets a call from the hospital that Fran has actually lived because Ransom's boasting that they have no proof that he was the one behind any of this. So therefore they can't convict him. And that's when the call comes in. And Marta's like, Fran's alive. And now knowing that there's a damning piece of evidence against Ransom, he angrily confesses and vows revenge on the Thrombies and especially Marta for ruining his money that he would inherit from Harlan. However, during this tirade, Marta vomits all over Ransom, revealing that she actually lied. Fran did succumb to the morphine. So there was the confession right there. So Marta actually just tricked Ransom into revealing everything he did. And he's then taken into custody, but not before trying one last thing to get Marta off the inheritance. And he attacks her with this knife throne. Think of the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones, but it's just this knife throne. However, it's a stage prop retractable knife and doesn't kill Marta, and he's taken into custody. And Marta stares over the balcony of now her own mansion. And also, Linda does discover that Richard was having an affair because the note that Harlan wrote that he was going to give to Linda was blank. But as Linda says through the whole movie, she and her father had very fun ways to have messages to each other, and she lights a match and that reveals the text. So everything has been revealed, and Marta now owns the Thromby estate and all the money that comes with it. And that was Knives Out. This is a very, very solid film. It really keeps you thinking. I figured out it was Ransom once the blackmail address came in because I was like, something's not right here. I think Ransom is the one who did all this. It turned out to be right. However, I thought they were going to go in a crazy route and make like the senile great grandma who can't like move barely or speak. I thought she was going to be the one like behind it the whole time. Or even better, I thought Daniel Craig was going to be behind it the whole time. I thought maybe he and Harlan had like beef and he killed him just to like cause a stir up in the family and cause like the inheritance. I have no idea, but I thought they were going to go that route because I just thought his appearance was very suspicious. And the fact that he got like an anonymous letter to come investigate this was also very suspicious. So, but hey, I like how it makes you think. It does make you think. This cast is phenomenal. So many heavy hitters. I completely forgot to mention Jaden Martell. Bill from It plays Jacob Thrombey, who doesn't really have many lines. He's always on his phone. He's like an internet troll, as they describe him. But the performances were fantastic by everyone around. Just like the sheer panic that everyone is feeling when their secrets might get revealed, or the anger and like the rage that they feel towards Marta when they realize that all the money that they worked their lives, not worked their lives, but that they thought they expected to get just wasn't given to them at all. It's fantastic performances because you feel every emotion that is felt. And Ana de Armas definitely stole the show here. I think she was the strongest performance in this whole movie. She's really able to, portray that fear throughout the whole movie. Even when she's trying to keep calm, keep her composure while she's investigating with Blanc, you can still hear the fear in her voice, see the fear in her eyes that, oh my God, I can get caught at any second now that he could be like, oh hey, you committed the murder and I'm screwed. So yeah, definitely if I had to give like a show stealer award to anybody in this cast, Ana de Armas earns it hands down. Chris Evans is always great. Michael Shannon, Daniel Craig, Jamie Lee Curtis, always fantastic in everything they do. So solid of a cast. And the story is just really, really interesting because I like the way they handled Harlan's death. They could have easily been like, yeah, you did inject her with all that morphine and, all that stuff. But they actually showed how good of a nurse Marta actually is, how absentmindedly she didn't even look at the labels and see that they were mixed up. She just saw the liquid inside because she says that morphine is a little cloudier than the medicine she actually gives Harlan for his pain. And she didn't notice that the labels were wrong. She just looked at the liquid and was like, all right, that's the right thing. Let me give you a little bit of your morphine and we're set. And then she noticed the labels as she was putting it away, which caused us to get to that point of, oh my God, I just injected you with a lethal dose of morphine. And that's how the whole plot goes. But I love the way they handled that it's like, well, Marta actually didn't even kill him at all. It really was a suicide to help Marta out. I thought that was freaking brilliant because when I saw that, I was like, damn, that's real. That actually makes the situation even more dark and grim because now it's revealed that nobody killed Harlan. Harlan killed himself. And that's rough because his family is so dysfunctional that they were so hell bent on trying to get Marta caught and framed so that they can get their inheritance back. But it turns out that Marta wasn't even the victim in the first place. And it's also revealed that Blanc knew that Marta was involved in the death the entire time because it's very subtle, but there is the tiniest splatter of blood on her shoe. And Blanc is a very observant detective and noticed it right away. And that's how Marta actually said that in the end. She was like, how did you know I was involved with this? And he was like, well, from the second I met you. And he points at her shoe and sees that tiny blood splatter. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's about that big. Not big at all. Wouldn't be noticeable by the human eye unless you're very observant like Blanc is. Just overall fantastic performance. My only gripe with the movie is they talk way too much politics in regards to illegal immigration because, Marta's families came into this country illegally. And it's just, I hate that nowadays we need to have some sort of political backing or wokeness or PC culture in every movie we have, no matter what the situation is. It really didn't need it, and it was getting really annoying at points, like they kept calling Meg SJW, how's your SJW award going? Bleh. And they're calling Jacob a Nazi because he, is constantly like talking about conservatively. It was obnoxious, really, really obnoxious. It took me out of the movie for a little bit because I was, getting very angry that I was just like, all right, shut up, we get it, politics, woohoo, let's make fun of everybody, but leave it out of the movie. It didn't need it. It really didn't need it at all. Like, we didn't need people talking about how much they hate illegal immigration to know how thin of ice Marta was on, throughout the whole film. We really didn't need that. And it just felt like padding to try to prove a point to modern day problems like illegal immigration. I don't know. I felt that it was just a very stupid addition. And it didn't take me away from the movie, but it pissed me off a lot. But that brings me to my final verdict, because it wasn't a mixed bag for me. This is a fantastic film, but the politics did knock it down a peg or two to a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend it, but if you're offended by political talk or just don't care to see it in your movie, maybe this isn't the best for you. But if you don't care about that stuff and you want to see a nice, murder mystery crime drama with a great cast, definitely check out Knives Out. Fantastic addition to Rian Johnson's repertoire. But Ryan, just keep politics out of your future project, please. And that's all I have to say about Knives Out. Make sure you guys stay tuned next week for whatever I have coming out next. Subscribe, like, share, comment, share with your friends. Again, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. The links are in the description below. Yeah, that's everything I have to say about that movie. So I will see you guys next week for another review. And until next time, guys, that's a wrap.